Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. We promise this will be a no Cuomo zone. We will not talk politics. We won't talk anything like that. Just mentioning his name was enough. And now we will go on to the pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
So interesting thing from the NFL today. So they sent out depth charts. It's in the rules now. At this time of the year, they have to send out a depth chart to the media. And it's like, basically 4 days in advance of their first preseason games. They claim these depth charts come from the PR department. Now, this is what makes me laugh. If you ever have seen or watched Hard Knocks or have any idea of how controlling an NFL coach is, if you think that a PR guy doesn't have to run this depth chart by the coach before they send it out to the media, you are crazy. But there's a lot of funny things on it. There's a lot of subterfuge. Like, as an example, the Jets have a guy who was a waste of a pick, 4th-round pick, defensive end, another edge rusher because the Jets can't draft him. And basically it was like, hey, he's on the 3rd string. And it's like, they don't even talk about this guy anymore. He's probably going to get cut, Zuninga, right? And then you see Denzel Mims has been practicing with the 3rd stringers and also the special teamers, but they listed him as a 2nd string guy on this report. Why? Because they want to trade him. And if they list him any lower, they're going to hurt their drafts, their trade stock.
And they don't want to take the heat for a guy that they took in the 2nd round last year being a 3rd stringer. So, right. Yeah, he's right in there. He's competing for a job. Yeah.
So it's really kind of funny. It's one of these things, and Hard Knocks begins tonight with the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm sure Jerry Jones will run his mouth. And this is a guy who hasn't sniffed a Super Bowl in decades. It's just crazy to me. But it'll be fun to watch. I'll watch it.
So last night, like any good baseball fan, I'm watching the Yankees play Kansas City, and it was a good pitchers duel between Jameson Taillon and Hernandez, and it was nothing through 7 innings. I think it was 7 innings. And then it was one of those games where whenever the road team scores a run, the home team will match it.
Right.
So it gets into extra innings, and it's 3-3. And this is where I hate Major League Baseball, and I hate Rob Manfred for doing what he's doing. Because if you get a lead in extra innings, it's not safe. It's that you have to get at least a 2-run lead.
You need 2 runs. Absolutely.
Yeah, at least a 2-run lead to feel any kind of safe. So the Yankees get a 2-run lead. I think it was in the 10th, and Kansas City comes back and gets 2 runs in the 10th, and then the Yankees get 3 runs in the 11th, and Kansas City gets 1 back and almost ties the game before they finally win 8-6. And I'm like, this is what I mean. This extra runner in extra innings does not save any time. It is, okay, you're trying to create artificial excitement. Well, that's what you're doing, but it's really, I think you're prostituting yourself, and the game is, it's an abomination. And I like, the game lasted 5 hours long. I hate that when it's Red Sox Yankees games. I don't know how anybody can enjoy a 5-hour baseball game. It's just, it's infuriating, Russ.
Yeah, no, a 5-hour game is just stupid. I mean, if it's a doubleheader, fine, but really nobody does want to sit through that. That's it. That's all I got to say.
Well, that's all I heard, but I have to agree.
Yes, we know how much you enjoy baseball talk. Actually,
I don't not enjoy baseball talk.
Actually, just to fill in Eck on something though. So I was at the game Sunday, where the Mets kind of didn't show up and Zach Wheeler did, and but before the game though they retired Roy Halladay's number. Now I didn't go the day before because I'm not a Phillies fan. They had put Manny Trio in the Wall of Fame. And I didn't know who came out for that. So I was pleasantly surprised to see when they unveiled Halladay's number, like out in the outfield where they put it on the wall, that it was Steve Carlton. And I was like, hey, this is a big deal. Steve Carlton lives in the side of a mountain.
He never gets out
in public.
No, he never comes out. I know. If People
So I was
forget,
thrilled
like,
to see him, even as a person who, his team used to face him, just because, look, we could say what we want about Roy Halladay, and I think he was a tremendous pitcher. I still think Steve Carlton was the better pitcher, but
oh yeah,
that's just me. But it's just, I was just like, I was happy for what they did for Halladay, but then when I saw Steve Carlton, I was like, this is really nice to actually see him. That was cool.
yeah. I mean, people like, when he was playing, one of the weirdest like characters ever, did not talk to anybody in the press. Remember, just the craziest thing. I mean, never did an interview, never heard him speak.
Was Schmidt there? Was Rose there?
Not for this day. Now, the day before, no, Rose, they would never invite back Rose. But the day before, I know they had some of the 80 teammates. I don't know how many. So this was more about the 2008 teammates.
Okay.
Really 2009, because that's when Halladay was there.
That's right. That makes sense. All right, let's get going. Here we go. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, August 10th, 2021.
I'm Michael Agello.
I don't even know what that means. I'm Russ.
It was a yawn, Russ.
Okay. And I'm actually watching HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in the comings and goings in the hockey world. I think we have to start today with Kirill Kaprizov and the situation that's kind of evolving as we speak, which is really, kind of fascinating. Obviously, rookie of the year, 24-year-old, brought a lot of excitement to Minnesota. Probably the most exciting player, arguably the most exciting player the Wild have ever had.
Wait a second. He won Rookie of the Year, Rock?
He did. I mean, unfairly, but yes, he did. But sure.
I picked him, but I picked somebody else. We know that.
But hey, 24-year-old rookie. But yeah, sure.
Okay.
Jeez.
Whatever. He's obviously an exciting player, great excitement, and really thrilling to watch. Does some really cool things. But now is in a holdout standoff with the Wild. And an interesting thing about this, the first thing that occurred to me was, Billy Guerin had his share of holdouts too. If you remember, like he as a player, he was famous. Like he held out in Pittsburgh. He held out with the Devils, holding out with Lamoriello, which was like that was considered
sin.
Yeah, like you were doomed forever. So it is kind of got to be kind of interesting now to see how he's going to handle this situation. It's just, but the funny thing about it to me, well, not the funny thing about it, but now you're getting Frank Cervelli, who has his Frank bombs or whatever from all of his agents now doing some agents bidding and putting out there, okay, here we have the 10-year deal from the CSK in Russia, or 1-year deal for the CSK for $10 million, and that. Sure,
we don't know if that's just.
We have no idea. Like that's the funniest thing about it.
I actually asked my Russian person about this to see what they're saying there, because usually if it's something this big, they're talking about it there to some people,
and I
haven't heard a word.
No, and I tried to do some research too, as well on this, and I mean, research in Russia are really, really hard.
Oh yeah,
but this is definitely an agent trying to get, and I'm not, and this is not the first time this has happened. We've seen other, guys, Nylander, rumors of Russian deals. I remember, Pasternak, rumors of Russian deals, right? All these things are out there because it's another league that can pay people a lot of money. But we got to remember at the end of the day, even Russian players would rather play in the NHL. And I don't mean to be a jerk about it, but it's a different league. It's a different world, right? And it's like, and they, and from what I heard, they were talking not too far off of that, for a much longer term than 1 year. So it's not super surprising to hear that this negotiation is going to start this way and head this direction. But I at this point don't expect Kaprizov to be signing in Russia, at least not yet.
I wouldn't say he is either. Although Eck, I did just send you on your Instagram account a video of Ivan Provorov boxing this morning in Russia. That's how.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's out with and a Devils prospect. So so they're actually pretty serious. The Svechnikov one's up on my Instagram, and it shows the actual boxing instructor how hard he is hitting and showing, how you do it. And I gotta say, Provorov has pretty good form. He does.
He's a damn in shape player, you know.
He's super fit. He really is.
He's crazy fit, and and that's for sure. I don't know. Someone says play a KHL clip for us and let's see what happens. No, we're not gonna do that.
No, we want the show to actually be.
We've had that problem before.
Be taken down by YouTube.
And this one, I used the Eye of the Tiger as the background music for this video.
Oh man, did you send it as a direct message to me?
As direct message on your Instagram. Yeah.
Instagram, okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll just say this. I mean, I think that Kaprizov is going to use the leverage of the KHL.
He's trying.
She's trying, but I don't think anybody takes it really seriously. The problem here with Minnesota is that, and we said this when the buyouts happened, they're going to be choked by those Parise and Suter buyouts, especially in years 2 and 3. And if you're going to pay Kaprizov off of 1 year, pay him $9.5 million, then you're really going to have a tough time operating a couple years down the road. That's why I think ideally what they want to do is get him on a 3-year bridge.
For sure.
At a cheaper amount, so they have a little more operating room, and then pay him the big money after the.
He's not going to allow them to do that though. Mike.
Right, he's going to want the 7 or 8 year deal, and that's
full free agency leverage where a normal prospect doesn't. That's the difference here.
He really has a lot of. He was a good player, but he's only played 50
years. He's their best player.
He's their best player, but he has only played, remember, 50 games in the NHL now, right? So,
but heck, this is the same case as Panarin. It doesn't matter what league, what it is.
Uh-oh.
It does matter what league. I'm just kidding.
He means to that franchise.
No, that's true. What he means to that franchise is absolutely no questions asked. And they know it, and they're going to pay him. They're not going to not pay him. But I think that at the end of the day, you're going to see. And I like Zuccarello and Kaprizov together as well. There's a lot of great things there for sure.
Yeah.
But I think that it is interesting to hear this kind of come out today, and like Mike said, the Wild have money to spend, but then 3 years from now they've got a ton of money that gets tied up in the cap. So they're really the next 2 years they're okay, but they really have to plan for 3 years ahead. So they're in a real spot there. Go ahead, Mike.
I wanted to bring up because we saw the signing yesterday after the show of Shesterkin on a 4-year deal, Russ, at $5.6666 million a year. Now, okay, I think he's a really good goaltender. I think I don't know if he's proven that he's top echelon yet, but I think it's a question of opportunity more than anything. But he's played 1.5 years, and he's already getting paid, I think, above the Mendoza line when it comes to NHL goaltender salaries. And this is a little much, a little early. And I'm wondering, like, for ex-Calder nominee Sorokin, what this is going to mean for him, because he arguably had just as good a year than Shesterkin last year.
Okay, so a couple things. And I do want to mention something about Carter Hart signing too, because Zach didn't have a chance to.
Yeah.
He had the press conference yesterday, and I was on there. As far as Shesterkin, the difference with him and Sorokin is Shesterkin was the clear number one. Georgiev never had a chance at the job.
Right.
And so even though Sorokin may have had better numbers, they did pick and choose his spots early in the season to kind of ease him in, where Shesterkin, they just threw him in the pool. So there's that. I saw that Steve Balaket had some fancy stats on Shesterkin that ranked very well within the league of top goaltenders. But also there is a negative one where he beat up on a lot of the bad teams like the Devils or whatever. He was like 9-1 against those teams. But again, you have to win those games just like anything else. It's just it's a part of it. I think the term on that deal is right. And so because of that, they did have to pay more of an AAV. The years on it is right. Like, I kept talking about his deal, saying he was not going to get a 6 or a 7 year deal out of them. There was no way, because they just, like Mike said, they just hadn't seen enough. And I think, 5.6 right now is probably, in the middle of it's a little higher than middle of the package. I guess goaltender salaries have dropped. But again, he is a for the Rangers, and the one position the Rangers have actually been good at most of the years is goaltending, and so you do end up having to pay for the guy there.
Yeah, I mean, and we're going to see a lot of that we talked about this year a bunch of times. There's a ton of great young goalies going on right now. Like we're in a real young goalie boom. I mean, to the point where I don't think there's ever been this many, to be honest, and this many significant.
Yeah, especially when Askarov gets in there, and and we could see a few others. Kakinen could still win the job in Minnesota. That's not.
I know he could, and I mean, it's just every team seems, and these are not just like these are, and a lot of Russian goalies, of course, but these are, but just in general, I mean, throw that with Carter Hart, Spencer Knight. I mean, it's just Mackenzie in Mackenzie Blackwood, New Jersey. There's just a bunch of great goalies right now, and I mean, Hart's, as far as Hart signing go, to talk, my feeling on it was it was a good deal for both sides. Honestly, I felt like that was about where it should be. Like I felt
it was the right term for sure, because you couldn't go any deeper with Hart right now. But I'll tell you some things for the press conference, Zach. Before the press conference, I contacted Kevin Woodley, and he's a goaltending expert. He has In Goal magazine. Aside from working for a team, he is the best guy out there, I think. So I asked him about Carter Hart, and I'm glad I did, because Carter Hart said nothing about his play during the press conference. I'll get to that in a minute. And I didn't step for the whole thing because it was just going nowhere. But the last line of what Woodley told me in my article on Sportsology was, he says, Carter has his work cut out for him this season because an early mystique in the eyes of the shooters is gone, and that edge is not always easy to get back. He also said that, to me, the big question is if he chases the change, which he did last year, or goes back to the technical foundation. And the interesting thing is there's been no change in the goaltending coach here or in Edmonton. The same guys are doing it. If he doesn't have good results early, they are going to start questioning the process more than the player, because he's still only 22. And that was the basis of my article, is this guy has only played 101 regular season games. He is still a prospect goalie in the sense that he might still not, we may not see his best till 2 years from now still.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to say with goalies. There is absolutely no pattern with them. I think I really don't. And Carter, I mean, I try to try to be a goalie whisperer myself. He is never. I mean, he's a very, very good young prospect. I know that he's enormously, as high of a prospect he is, and how the comparisons I always heard about him. Well, they have to give time. They have to give him time. Like it's one of those things. You have to give this guy time. They did bring him in early for sure. The players were up against it for sure when they did.
It's ironic that you say they have to give him time, because that's the first thing that they didn't do.
Right, and that's
that was a calculated thing. If we go back to that,
that is a calculated thing. And I think
they got rid of Hextall, the first thing, the blockade from Hextall was he wasn't going to do that with Hart. And the minute Hextall was gone, they did it with Hart.
And I'm not saying, and it's easy to sit there and jump on him and say they rushed him. That's the easy thing. But no, and I know you're not, but Mike is. But I think that
give me credit. I've been saying that since.
Oh no, you've been saying that the whole freaking time. I get that, but here's the deal. I don't think we can say they rushed him, because, first of all, you have to look at every goalie is a different mentality, and Carter Hart's mentality is such that I don't feel like he was rushed. But at the same, because he's way more mature than a lot of young players in the league, not just goalies. And I think that he's okay to come in the league. But I don't think that when you say that he was brought in early, that doesn't mean that it's not going to take him 3 or 4 years to actually become the goalie he's going to become. Like a defenseman would take time to develop into the defenseman they're going to become. The problem with goalie is, when you're developing, you're making mistakes. Every one of them counts against your team. So it's like the issue is, with a goalie, he's really, that's why you have to be careful. And that's why you can only do this with guys who are really mentally stable. But he is a mentally stable kid.
Well, but here's the thing. That may be a work in progress now, more than, I don't think we in the media should now say, well, the mental game is the strongest part of your game. I don't think we should say that to Carter Hart anymore. No. Because I'm not sure that that's the case anymore.
And at this point, the mental game only is that's something you say when, a kid's coming into the league more than anything else. Like to to me, like once you get it, once you get to the NHL, you got to perform. It's what it comes down to. It doesn't matter how mentally strong you are. The only reason I bring up the mental strength is that I don't think he was rushed, and I think that they made the right decision in bringing him in. I think that he's going to need X amount of years at the NHL level to become what he's going to become. The problem with that, so if you bring him in a year later, that might delay the process as well. So, and I think that's how the Flyers saw it too.
So, but here's the thing: Hart wouldn't talk about the changes that they're working on this offseason. He was asked about it twice, and he said they're happy with what they're doing, and he wouldn't say what they're actually doing. And that's not like Carter Hart, Eck. He used to be very honest about everything, and now he's not, and that's probably because of last year. So
that makes you think that he's afraid that if he tells people out there what he's doing, they're gonna take advantage of it.
Yeah, I said to Russ yesterday, if he came out and he said, "Well, I'm sort of working on like sort of a new psychological approach to how to whether it's confidence or whatever." And he lets in one bad goal at a key point early in the season, and a Philadelphia reporter's going to say, "So how's your confidence after that one?" He doesn't want to have to dwell on that constantly. And
also, it's just like it's the thing that every television analyst, the Jacksons of the world, Jim Jackson, these guys are great, but they're going to there's a goal. That's something that we know Hart's been working on.
It's true, but when you don't talk about it, it does create pressure.
Right.
It doesn't have to, because I mean it can, but I think that it depends on his relationship with the goaltending coach, and I would venture to say that his goaltending coach probably told him not to talk about it.
Both of them. There's two of them. They're both, because there's one by the Flyers, and then he's got his own. But he said everything's hunky dory between the two, so we have to believe that's true. But after this year, if he doesn't have results, it's not going to be.
But especially in
a
goaltending in a very difficult goaltending market like Philadelphia.
Right.
I think, we've gone through Brizgalov, we've gone through Robert Esch and a number of other goaltenders. It's a tough market for goalies, and I think probably not being specific is a way to sort of deflect the criticism. But I do think that if he doesn't play up to expectations, that's not going to matter. He's still going to get criticized.
But here's the other dynamic that I wasn't expecting to hear on the call, but we hear it a lot. But I wasn't expecting to hear it on this call. And that was apparently Martin Jones on his call. Like, I wasn't on that one.
Right.
Would say, he's going to battle for the top spot. And that's all well and good, and Hart's okay with that. But just think about this for a minute. Kim Dillabaugh now not only has to fix what was wrong with Carter Hart last year, because he did try something different. We pointed it out, and it didn't work. Now he also has to fix the backup goalie.
I think he has time. I mean, I have to manage 17 people. I think he can manage two.
I want you to give me a team where a goaltending coach has had to work with both guys extensively to sort of bring them back off of bad years. I can't think of one.
No, you bring them back off of bad years. I do agree with you, but I think that goalies and Hart especially. I mean, I don't know Jones that well yet. I mean, I've talked to Brendan Dillon about him at one point, and he's like, he really believes in him still. He's like, yeah, that's definitely.
Everybody believes in him because he's a good guy, but
but he says he really believes
that he. After 3 bad years, it's hard to believe in him.
Yeah, no, it is hard, but at the same time, goaltending is such a bizarre thing that he comes in and gets lucky in the first game and like makes a couple saves, something hits the post, and it's like confidence builds so bizarrely quick in goalie, and it can just in the same way can be broken down just as quickly. That it's so hard to. A new start for a goalie is like everything. Like a new uniform, a new place to play. I mean, the San Jose, you can't get much further apart from San Jose and Philadelphia. I mean, you're like 3,000 miles apart from each other, right?
True.
I know I had a long distance relationship with my wife in San Jose for a very long time. I know that's a great deal of distance. And yeah, I think that. You're right about everything you're saying, Russ. I agree with most of it, but I think that at the same time, Carter Hart is more of a micro guy than a macro guy. If that makes it like Carter Hart.
I'm going to make you the goaltending coach here, Eck.
Yeah.
Follow me for a minute. So here's the Flyers schedule. I think Hart has no problem starting the first 4 games with the way everything's spaced out. It's, Canucks Flyers on the 15th. Kraken Flyers on the 18th, Bruins Flyers on the 20th, Panthers Flyers on the 23rd. No problem.
Right.
Then you've got Flyers Oilers 27th, Flyers Canucks 28th. Which game are you playing Martin Jones, and which one do you feel confident Martin Jones could win?
Canucks, because
I don't
he
know.
was in the Pacific Division.
I think I would maybe get him. I would get him one of the starts in the first 4 games. I think you want to play because the first 4 are at home, right?
Yeah.
Play him against the Kraken then.
You're going to play him against the Kraken the second game? You're not going to play Carter Hart the second game already?
Well,
I don't think you could do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
you could do it
brings
against
up
the
a really
Panthers.
Russ. This is a great point, and actually, because one of what you're bringing up here is something I hadn't thought about. I mean, it is a really interesting point because you are looking now at 2 goalies that are going to be judging their confidence on the starts they're given.
Yes,
because they're both coming off of a tough season.
Yep.
And you're looking at Vigneault, who is horrendous at handling goalies.
Yep.
All right, so like this is to me that is a scary proposition. Because yeah, if Hart plays that first game, plays really well, you pull him for the Kraken game, then is that messing with Hart because I'm back. But if you don't play Jones for the first 4 games and don't play him until he's in the West Coast, you wanted to play on the East Coast because the West Coast, he's used to the Pacific Division. He's used to getting killed by the Pacific Division, Mike. Like, there's no point in playing him in the Pacific Division
but
team.
then you're going to play Hart back-to-back early in the season.
I know. No, you're going to. I mean, he's obviously going to have to play 2 of those. I think 2 of those 6 games.
If you have to worry about that, then you should have gotten a different backup. Because
it's a very valid point. If this doesn't work out, this is going to be something we're going to talk about a lot because now. If Vigneault was to take like the other route, which some people take, which I do not like, of like announcing your starters a week ahead kind of thing, like so
right.
that's the only way that I think Vigneault can get beyond this because then Hart doesn't feel bad if he doesn't play the second game. You have the way to get around
Vigneault
it.
Could smooth it over, saying I want to play both of them early.
Yeah, like Hart's playing game 1 and game 1, 3, 5, and 6 or whatever. You're playing game 2 and 4. Just like that kind of thing.
But then Hart doesn't play for 5 days.
Right. That's yeah, I mean, it's going to be such a different season for that kind of stuff,
It is.
Sorry. Because of the fact that these guys are also so used to going, sorry. Someone has left their phone down here. We're just going to do a little bit. But just hold on. Stop in a second. I agree. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I know I think that's what he has to do. I think that's the way Vigneault has to handle it because you have to give these guys their expectations and not merit-based starts early in the season for either of these guys. Because if you're merit-based starts, that you're always going to be killing one of their confidences, and you want to keep them both confident. That is a really great point, Russ. I hadn't thought about honestly.
Right. Now, the other goaltender signing less ballyhoo than Shesterkin or Hart was Ilya Samsonov signing a 1-year deal with the Caps at $2 million. And Russ, I think this is a sort of come to Jesus moment for Samsonov because they have Vanacek and they lose him in the expansion draft, bring him back. Vanacek was the main goalie last year. Now they're paying Samsonov real money. It's not big money, but it's real money.
Right.
He's a guy who they expected to be the one to sort of jump up and be the number 1, but we know the off the ice situations that he had with Kuznetsov. He had COVID a couple times, I think, last year.
Yeah.
I think the Caps, if they're going to be a success story this year, it has to be Samsonov being the number 1 and not Vanacek.
I agree. I do want to answer Johnny here.
Yeah.
Because he would like to see shows that focus on a team. Like he's a Ranger fan. We are going to have those shows. We're too far out for that right now.
Yeah, that's coming. We had September.
There's too much uncertainty right now.
Well, there's too much uncertainty, and plus we like to wait till these teams start getting their rosters finalized. The reason we did the really early predictions was to kind of give that to a degree, but.
Yeah. And what we might do, because it's September is traditionally we do team previews, but Russ and I were talking about maybe looking at some teams and their top 2 or 3 prospects who could make an impact. So, but we could do that quickly, and it'll be team focused. So we may do that in the next.
I love that idea. That would be great. Yeah. I mean, we have the best prospect here.
Getting with Samsonov, I think now things are straightened out with him. I mean, I did see him play last year, and I thought he was okay when I saw him.
Yeah,
there was a problem. I think he has just like everybody had a weird time with COVID and the bubble, and then not the bubble. I think he had a weird time too. The ATV accident didn't help him. All that stuff didn't help him. These are things that could derail you. early on in a young hockey career. But in the end, it's nice for them to have Vanacek sitting in the wings, like Mike said. So for me, it's like, yeah, you've got to just go with Samsonov to see. And then if he doesn't do it, fine. You've got Vanacek, and you'll split time, and that's okay.
Oh yeah. And I honestly think at the end of the day, I am not convinced that Vanacek's not the better goalie. And
I can't say you're wrong, because he's a very good goalie.
He's a really good goalie, and I thought that the Grubauer signing was a huge mistake in Seattle, because to me, losing Vanacek and getting Grubauer for more money for an expansion team is absolutely ridiculous. Like, that's pointless, because Vanacek could have been the guy who really carried them.
It was a mistake, but not for that reason. It was a mistake because Grubauer is not that good. He's good.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. And you're paying money for a guy who's not as good. I don't think as good as Vanacek will be. And I think that Vanacek maybe this year, maybe next year, but Vanacek is going to be a serious goalie. That's going to come down as one of the biggest mistakes the Kraken ever made, I believe.
Although we did rip the Bruins, if you remember, for trading Martin Jones, and for a couple of years it looked bad.
Oh yeah, no, there's no question. And it's like it's a goalie thing. Goalies are impossible to judge. Yes. It really is. That you can look so stupid by saying what you think a good goalie is. I mean,
absolutely.
And we've talked about that before. Like, I could look.
It's really hard to figure.
It could be very easy for me to look stupid, like like say with like a Thomas Greiss or I don't know, a Carter
Sorokin or
Carter Hutton or and then once in a while you get Ilya Sorokin right. I mean, I think I'm right on that one. But
no, you are right on that.
The other two, maybe not so much. It's really hard. But I do think that what they did to they just got played. They got played on that Grubauer thing. They got caught up in the moment because they obviously wasn't their idea. They had already signed, Dredger to a big contract. It's just like they really. I mean, and we're gonna do our picks, I guess, tomorrow. We have Kevin tomorrow or Friday. On when we do the Pacific Division, which I think my Pacific Division.
Yeah, and that's what I'll talk about for someone, Randy asked in the chat room. I'll mention him in that.
Yeah, I think that I think they are going to get. I think I'm going to take the most heat I've ever taken on the show for my picks in the Pacific Division tomorrow.
Oh boy,
but
here we go.
But because to try not to read my blog, which I know is not a hard thing to ask you guys to do.
No, I mean,
just try.
Have to ask you twice.
I don't have to ask you twice. All right, don't read my blog from yesterday, so you can be surprised.
It'll be tough, but
about my predictions, because they are. Yeah, they're definitely. There you have it. But yeah, this is. Listen here. I'm telling you what. Anthony in the chat room has this right. They fleece Francis on the Vanacek deal, giving up Dylan, who we exposed. Yep. And
he's right, but sometimes it doesn't work out with a player. Like, that's just the way it is. It just never worked out with him there. He is a good player. He's not a great player, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah. And
it does happen that way.
Just when I said something nice about you, Anthony, you obviously aren't reading my blog.
Listen, Keith Yandel could have a 50-point season this year, right? But he was never going to do that with the Rangers. It just never worked out for Keith Yandel with the Rangers.
Yeah.
Johnny Red asks, why do you think Buffalo doesn't want Eichel to have the surgery?
A really good question.
We discussed it yesterday with Kevin, because I think that, now remember, Buffalo doesn't want him to have the disc replacement surgery. I think it's an insurance issue. I think it's the fact that, because it's deemed an experimental surgery or a surgery that no other hockey player has had, that maybe there would be a problem with them getting him insured if he has that surgery. I think
reminds me of like a Tommy John surgery thing years ago,
many years ago.
Because I think this disc replacement thing might actually revolutionize hockey back situations.
But for like an insurance company, it's an unknown.
Yeah.
Right. And, I mean, there's a reason why they're saying, "Oh, go ahead and have the fusion," because the fusion surgery has been done many a time, and I think that's the issue.
Congrats, that is the issue.
Congrats, William.
Yeah, congrats, William. That's awesome.
What the hell are you watching us if you just
30 hours, man? More congratulations to your wife. 30 hours.
Awesome.
And do your son Aiden a favor.
Oh, no.
Do not burden him with the pain of being a Sabres fan.
By the time Aiden's able to recognize things in front of his face, they'll be okay.
Yeah.
Let him. This is actually the perfect time to bring into the world a Sabres fan, because these first couple years we won't remember them. So that's great. By the time he's able to remember them, they'll be okay.
Yeah. I mean, Mike, would you tell you if you had a kid, Mike, and you just found out about it? Would you tell your kid not to be a Leafs fan?
No, because there's at least some positive in being a Leafs fan.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. What is the positive?
Yeah. Let's explain, Mike.
a team of great tradition, of great.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. Beautiful uniforms.
Class.
Beautiful uniforms.
Class, tradition. What else, Mike? Winning.
They have the second most Stanley Cups in the history of the NHL. Or less.
They are the Baltimore Colts of the NHL when it comes to uniforms. I'll give them that.
Russ, come on. Dispute that. They've won the second most.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. And even though none of them happened in any of our lifetimes, except for you, well, I guess you guys were alive barely. Like I told you, I was conceived exactly 9 months. Before. So that if you go 9 months back from my birthday, January 12th, 1968, you get to exactly the day that the Leafs win the Stanley Cup for the last time. So I am absolutely the Leafs curse. There's no two ways about it. There you have it. All right.
But they're steeped winning tradition.
Yes, they are. We can do more questions in the chat room too, guys. You want to? We have in the last little bit here, because that's this is definitely a lighter day. And I'm also going to show you this, guys, because I've been watching it on my screen for the last hour as Russ sent me this video. I was trying to find a way to put it up. Sorry.
While you're pulling it up, we'll just the Jakob Vrana signed with the Red Wings 3 years at $5.25 million. I think that was a oh god.
Yes, there we go.
So this is Provorov in the orange, obviously.
Yes.
He does. I mean, Provorov is one of my favorite people / players.
As an athlete, he's a tremendous athlete.
He's amazing. He's amazing, and he is just absolutely 100% a hockey player.
It's easy to look good when you're fighting a guy much smaller than you. He's fighting a bantamweight.
No, true. But and the Devils guy, I just want to say his name is Nikita, and I'll mispronounce it, but it's Akato. And he played for the Ottawa 67. So however you pronounce it, but that's the guy who's waiting. And then there's also another video that I have up of Svechnikov boxing, but Provorov looks way better than Svechnikov, as we saw Svechnikov get knocked out on.
I mean, the thing about Provorov is he's a hockey player in any era at any time.
He really is.
He really reminds you of that. The thing I love, I mean, the first shift he ever took as a flyer in a preseason game, but the first time we ever saw him on the ice was made me fall in love with him immediately. He has the puck in his own end. He makes a nice move, and he's carrying the puck up the ice, makes a really solid pass. Just when he gets over the blue line, gets the pass back, dumps it to somebody else and then enters the zone and goes to the net. Which is a defenseman I was shocked on. But he actually goes to the net because someone else is covering for him. He goes right to the net and picks up a rebound on a shot, doesn't score, but that was just one of those moments holy cow, this kid just goes to the net. And he does it later in the game, and I'm thinking, oh man, there's too many chances. You're too young, too many chances. But then you're amazed at the speed of how he can get back so quickly that it doesn't matter. He got back into the play, and you're like, okay, well, if you have that kind of speed and that kind of endurance, sure, go deep all the time.
I'll tell you the one thing he could do that he showed us that really only maybe 2 or 3 defensemen in the entire league can do. There was a point, and it wasn't last year, I think it was in the bubble, where he was only taking 20 seconds off in between shifts and was going back out on the ice in a third period. And it's really hard to do that when you're a number one defenseman.
And you're under the pressure he's under all the time. He's playing in every situation. He's playing shorthanded. He's playing on the power play. He's playing in every spot. And the Flyers, that last year's defense was so, staggered and horrendous that the pressure was on him just constantly. It was very impressive. I mean, we know he had an off year 2 years ago, but and last year wouldn't, he's not going to go down as one of his greatest, but
no. I do want to tell Steve Cardinal in the chat room, I have no love for Emperor Palpatine. Just because I'm wearing black doesn't mean that I am a fan.
Is he really an emperor? I would always try to figure this out.
He was.
Because
he had a bigger nose than me. I do the side view. His nose is way longer than mine. Anyhow.
I'm a big Darth Maul fan.
This is what I want to bring up about that for a second. And yes, it's off. topic, but among the people who work for that side of for the dark side, not the rebels, but the other.
Yeah.
I can't remember their name exactly. They're
or the Imperial.
Among that side, they are very confusing as to their ranks. Like some of them are admirals, some are generals.
They're killing them all the time too. Like they don't last that long.
Because admirals are ocean bound things. Admirals are
like space.
This is space, right? Generals usually, people who work from NASA are usually naval officers. That's usually the astronauts are naval pilots. So it's
wasn't there Admiral Akbar?
There's Admiral Akbar in general. So like, what are they really like? That's what I don't understand.
He's not even a human. So like,
are we just going for alliteration? I think that's what we're doing. But I just want
talking make believe.
I'm sorry. We'll move on. Sorry.
Who will sign Michael Del Cole? Bardicus wants to know.
I think someone like Ottawa will sign him and put him in the minors. I don't think he'll get an NHL deal. I think he'll get an AHL.
Yeah,
this year.
I mean, there are some players out there.
Well, he is from Richmond Hill, which is a suburb of Toronto. So
maybe they'll get him for the Marlies.
Yeah, although if you're looking for an NHL contract, there is a team that just started that needs NHL player or needs players to fill out their organization. Maybe Seattle would be a team that signs them.
Yeah, I mean, my blog tomorrow. Remember, I do have a blog. You don't have to read it, but I do have a blog tomorrow. And it is going to be on the topic of among the players still out there for free agency. Could you create a playoff team? Now it's interesting. I'm going to try to do that with players that are still out there. It is interesting. I know I don't think you can, but at the same time, there are some players out there that are still pretty good, and I'm still kind of surprised at some of the guys that aren't signed, and that I'm assuming that Seattle's going to jump on. Like, there's no reason that they wouldn't.
Well, I think some of them don't want to be signed at this point. I think Chara doesn't want to be signed.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But look, like, I'll give you some of my here's a couple of them that are kind of interesting to me. Like, so, and this is what I'm working on. So I'm not gonna give him too much. But Dubinsky's not signed, right? Okay, we know he's hurt.
Well, he's done.
He's done with injuries, right? But so I'm back because these guys I'm eliminating because these are the top guys on the UFA list. But James Neal, I still think.
Oh my God!
All right. I'm not going to count the guys that we think are signed by the Devils, but or by the Islanders. But Travis Zajac is still out there.
I think Zajac might go back to the Islanders too.
He might. Anisimov is still out there.
Anisimov is apparently going back to Europe. Our Captain EO got an email from somebody saying, "Please take Anisimov off the Ottawa Cap Central because the son of a bitch is not coming back."
There you go.
August. Leave him alone.
One rumor I've been chasing and looking at for a little bit, and I hinted at it in my blog the other day, but I've heard that there has been talks between Edmonton and Jason Demers. That's a great move. If Edmonton can do that, I think personally.
Yeah, for another guy in there. I mean,
Jason Demers is what they need because he's not fast obviously, but he's got tons of character. But there's guys out there like
your goalie's going to be Lundqvist, right? That's who you're going with.
Well, no, and Lundqvist and Dubnyk, right? So Dubnyk's still out there too.
Yeah, I think I would take more of a risk on Lundqvist if he seemed healthy than Dubnyk at this point.
Yeah, but Eric
Dubnyk wasn't bad last year, but I think he's lost that high end goaltending.
How about like Sammy Vatanen? We always talk about again Vatanen. Why can't he? Vatanen. I mean,
no
Vatanen
team wants Sammy Vatanen.
It is the strangest thing because he does play well.
Because he's lost a step and he's not big. That's
another guy I really, and I know you're a fan of him too, Russ, and I'm really surprised about. And I think maybe the best UFA not signed is Alex Chason. And if Seattle doesn't jump on Chason, I mean, is not that the perfect kind of player to bring into Seattle?
Yeah, he'd be good. Get him on a 1-year deal. He'll probably score 15 goals for you.
Yeah.
Well, the one that I looked at even before free agency was Tyler Bozak, and
right
now.
But he's lost a step too.
But he can't be a top 6 center any longer.
No.
Yeah.
But he could be a 3rd or 4th line center. He's a good face-off guy. He can, he's good on the power play. I thought if the Leafs had traded Kerfoot, that he might be somebody that they brought back if he would accept a lesser salary. Now, the fact that he hasn't signed means he's not prepared to accept a lesser salary. Maybe when you get closer to training camp and he hasn't been signed,
maybe
that'll be. Now, other names: Ryan Donato.
Ryan Donato, we talked about him.
I guess it's his size at this point, because if Ryan Donato were as big as Brendan Perlini, he would have a contract. That's just. I mean,
there's Sorensen. These. I mean, not but how about the fact that Bobby Ryan hasn't signed yet, which is sort of surprising.
I'm not that surprised. I mean,
I thought he would go. I really thought the Red Wings were going to bring him back.
Well, when Kevin was saying that they have no spots, then they don't have a spot for Bobby Ryan. They want to get their kids back in there. Now, Alex,
you know what it is? It's his lack of defensive play. Yes. We're now in an era where if you're not big and you don't hit guys and you can't play defense, but you could score a little, it's not enough anymore.
That's true.
Alex Galchenyuk,
right? He's on there.
He had a sort of rebirth with the Leafs. I thought he played pretty well for them. Okay. I know that there were off the ice issues, but with the dearth of goaltending, especially in two markets, Buffalo and Arizona, I'm surprised one of them hasn't approached Devin Dubnyk.
Yeah, me too. I agree with it completely. I mean, Ennis and Brassard. There's two other guys that I think are.
I mean, how many times with Brassard though? He is getting less effective.
For sure, he is. But
Erica Branson, I think, will be signed by training camp.
Jimmy Vesey, granted, these are not.
Vesey will get signed.
Vesey has issues, but to me, I'm going to try tomorrow to put together a team, and then we're going to compare that roster to the roster of the Seattle Kraken and see what we are.
Answer the question on the screen. I know a couple of times the Habs were definitely going to put Paling in the lineup, and he had concussion problems or some sort of injury. He was great with the Rocket last year, and he wasn't so great with Montreal. I just think he's never going to find his way with that team. I think if they traded him, another organization would find a spot for him in 10 seconds. But I just think the Habs are struggling to find that spot for him.
Where do we think Max Domi's going to end up?
I think there's a chance it could be a place like Buffalo, because they need to get to the cap floor, and he's a 1 year, and then he goes UFA. And if he has a rebirth, now remember, he probably won't be available until Christmas because of the
and that's the thing. They may wait till Christmas just to even bring him in on any kind of contract.
That's what makes him so hard to sign, because you can't even get it. You're not even going to really get it to see him out there.
He's signed. He's a year left at 5.3.
Oh, he does have a year left.
Yeah, okay. but this is the problem. Columbus is not a cap team, so that money. Even if you put them on IR, they're getting reimbursed probably for insurance, but that money counts against the cap for them. I mean, maybe Domi and I think Columbus is over the cap floor, so it doesn't really benefit them at all. I'm sure they would like to jettison that contract. With Buffalo, they would put him on IR, and he would count against the cap. So
there's two things counting against him. He's not really a center, and he's making too much money, and he's smaller. It's really three things. And so they would have to really eat half of that salary, and someone would have to probably get him to be on the wing. But again, a lot of these ancillary players now, teams are loading up on bigger players, and I don't know if Domi's going to get a great chance with anybody.
Columbus would have to eat half the salary if they traded into a team that wants him, in terms of him to be say for example, Toronto was interested in Max Domi. Yes, then Columbus would have to eat half the salary. If it's Buffalo, Buffalo would take the whole salary.
You know who I'm surprised I haven't heard anything about them with Max Domi, but I think I would give it a shot if I was them, would be the Devils. I think that's a place where they could actually, they just need the scoring. You can give him a little bit more responsibility. I think he needs to have his ego boosted a little bit. Not a bad, he's definitely. Remember,
he's a good guy. He's great.
Very
the fans,
popular player in Montreal. Montreal really loved him. Would it be possible that Montreal, if they eat their salary, if they eat some salary, could bring him back? I've heard that too.
His last great year. He had 72 points. That was a hell of a year.
Yeah, think about that. That's not too long ago. And Montreal, if they get him back at half salary, would make a ton of sense.
Last year he would have had 40 points. But again, Eck, the problem is he's a career minus guy. He's not great defensively. He's not really a center.
But the career minus is a team thing too, like that.
He's 5'9", and so if you already have a 5'9" guy, a lot of teams are like, we don't want another one.
Now, the one thing that he does have, he is a good skater.
Yes, he is.
He's a really good skater, and that again is another thing. If I'm Seattle, like bring in good skaters, bring in.
Yes, I want to tell Esmir, is there any truth about Dvorak to the Raiders? Yes, Radek Dvorak will be the Raiders.
How about I think Miroslav?
I don't think so.
How about Miroslav Dvorak? Let's bring him back.
I like Radek Dvorak. He was a very underrated
player. Dvorak was nuts. He was really fun. He was a fun player.
I want to say Radek Dvorak probably had one 20-goal season on a bad Ranger team.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Who would they? Someone asked who we would sponsor. Who the Sabres are going to highlight as their like guy in the marketing if Eichel's gone, and that is a big.
Actually, he had 31 goals for the Rangers.
Dylan Cousins.
Dylan Cousins. Yeah, I guess that's where you go, right?
Yeah, but again, the average schnook in Buffalo, just a working class guy who doesn't really know the Sabres. No, it could be in any city, Mike. It doesn't.
Would it be Rasmus Dahlin?
He's not going to know who. He's not going to know who Dylan Cousins is.
Well, that's the whole point, Russ. The
whole point is you're going to have to do a 2-minute video to figure out if the guy even wants to go see a game. That's not marketing.
And the music will be the Goo Goo Dolls in the background.
No, but I mean, it would be the same as if the Flyers were hurting, and you said, okay, well now we're going to bring in Morgan Frost, and so some guy who's like an electrician likes hockey, maybe just starting to go to games, is like, who the hell is Morgan Frost? Like where. It's
No, I get those texts all the time from people that I know. Usually the parents of girls I coached in soccer years ago, they're still they're Flyers fans, know that who's Morgan Frost character, or who's this, why'd they trade Gostisbehere? I get these things all the time, it's just like, I mean, I think
that's the just the casual person that may go to some hockey games. You do have to still try and market to them too.
Yeah, you definitely do.
That's why I said next year is a marketing sinkhole for the Sabres because, yes, they'll try to market Dahlin and Cousins.
Owen Power is easy to market, I think.
What's that?
Yeah.
Owen Power is easy to market.
Right, but he won't be there. He'll be in Michigan.
No, next year he'll be there.
Next year he'll be there, and then, yes, you can market him, and then you're going to market the Twin.
You said next year, but you mean this season now.
I mean the season starting in October. Next 21-22.
Yeah, that's a sinkhole. You're right.
Yeah, it's a sinkhole.
No. Oh, yeah, it's a sinkhole for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, 100%. Okay, so I think that's all the time we got for today. But guys, I really appreciate the watching and everything like that, and so many good comments. Remember to like us here, post us around, share us with your friends.
You like me,
and if you like what we're doing and feel like you get some value out of this to help get you through an hour of your day,
get a non-gray shirt, whatever.
Right, maybe we can afford. If someone donates $20 to get a Patreon, I will buy Mike a non-gray shirt. I promise you.
Buy him a multicolor shirt. He doesn't own one that has more than one color on it.
Sure, I do.
That's funny. All right, folks. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will be back tomorrow to talk Pacific Division. You're going to want to watch this. Be back. Come on.